Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is our phone-in series, our show in which we chat to a few of the listeners over the course of the next hour or so and get their thoughts and feelings about what's been going on in their Arsenal worlds and get their opinions and thoughts, of course, that might be different to mine, which always creates some good discussions, some good chats, and sometimes some good debates as well. Just to lay down the ground rules, of course, you must be over the age of 18 to take part, must have a good internet connection so we can hear and see you crisply. And speaking of being able to see you, you must have a camera as well. A link to be able to join our StreamYard is in today's video description. If you can't see it, maybe just refresh and it might pop up. If not, there is a link to join us in the chat box. There is a pinned message that should be popping up for you now in the chat box there. So if you'd like to join and you fulfill all that criteria, please do. We're going to be talking about lots of different topics this evening, I'm sure, regarding Arsenal's game against Lens, the Manchester City fixture at the weekend, and of course, plenty more to do with Bukayo Saka's injury status as well. What I usually do is that people fill up the bottom of the screen. You can't see them, but I can. They're down below me right now, and gradually they one by one. We go in kind of the order. There's also a little private chat for those that join on the right-hand side in StreamYard, which I'll be using throughout to communicate with people that are waiting to join the show as well. Right, let's bring our first guest in. Wilson loves kicking off a phone-in show, does Wilson? So let's bring him into the call. How you doing, Wilson? You good, you well?
Yeah, I'm good, Tom, but I'm still absolutely fuming, livid about Arsenal's awful performance against Lens. And I've got a few things to say, Tom, because I'm fuming about it. Why on earth did Arteta start Saka last night? He knew that Saka was carrying a knock. From a North London derby, he was carrying a knock. Even in the Bournemouth game, was carrying a knock. And I thought to myself, surely Arteta's not going to play Saka against Lens. The moment he started him against Lens, I was like, what on earth is he doing? And then Saka got injured again. I mean, some of these substitutions were baffling, Tom. It was baffling. And then let me just deal with the substitutions later, right? Because what on earth was David Raya doing? What was he doing? He gave the ball away. And then the moment that Lens scored, it gave him confidence after that. And the crowd rose up from that. And we were panicking, Tom. We were panicking after that. There was no calmness, nothing. Oh, Tom, it's absolutely baffling. And you know, and I'm trying to figure out who am I more angry with? Is it the players or the manager? I know that both are to blame, but I blame the manager more because he got everything totally wrong. There was some of the players that he could have rested, and he didn't do that. It's shocking, Tom. And Arteta needs to fix up, and the players need to fix up. If we play badly like that against Manchester City, they're the champions, by the way. They will snap us up. We need to fix up.
Wilson, you're speaking very passionately there, my friend, and it's always a good way to kick off the show with such passion. And I can clearly tell from what you're speaking about, you care very clearly about the mistakes that were made last night. And I talked this morning, of course, on the 8 a.m. show about my frustrations with the team selection, Saka being picked. It's not for me like a hindsight thing. I know a fair few people have kind of aimed that cannon at people that are complaining about Saka starting, but I know a lot of people spoke ahead of the game that they didn't want to see Saka risk. It's a massive game at the weekend against Man City. You talked about Raya as well. I'm going to pick up on a couple of things that you talked about there. How do you feel about the Raya Ramsdale selection right now? Raya made that mistake, but he's had some good games. Ramsdale has made mistakes in the past as well. So who do you go with at the weekend?
I mean, to be fair, when Raya's been playing, he's actually been quite good. Even in the North London derby, he conceded 2 goals, which are not his fault, by the way. And I think in the Everton game, he was good. But on that game against Lens, he was not great. He was shocking. Absolutely shocking. I mean, the thing with Arteta, yeah, he's very ruthless with the goalkeepers and all of that. He's got to be ruthless now. If he's had 1 or 2 bad games, he might need to be dropped. I'm a bit torn, actually, Tom, on who to start because both of them are very good goalkeepers. However, both goalkeepers have made mistakes. If you had to press me of which particular goalkeeper I would start on Sunday against the champions, I would edge towards Ramsdale. I'm just edging towards him now, simply because of that mistake from Raya was shocking. And I think we need Ramsdale for this one. I really do, because that's how I feel, to be honest.
Fine. Are you entitled to a view on it? I think there are a lot of people that will probably agree with you regarding starting Ramsdale. It's interesting, this idea of Raya Ramsdale, that Arteta signed Raya, and it's now created this massive discussion. And neither of them have necessarily, this season at least, had like a clean slate. So it's not like you can kind of lean one way more than the other and it be justified to lean so much more heavily one way than the other. I think they're both very good goalkeepers. And I think they both have different strengths, but neither of them have been able to convince, I think, a unification of supporters to support one over the other. Last question, Wilson, before I move on to our next caller, because I can see them filling up down below. If you want to join the call, the link is in the description or in the chat box. But Saka's injury, I'm just going to say hypothetically, he's not there on Sunday. Fingers crossed he is, but let's say hypothetically he's not. How are you setting up the front three?
If Saka's not going to be fit, I'd actually start either Reece Nelson or Smith Rowe. One of those two, because I feel like Reece Nelson offers something a bit different. He offers that, I don't know about pace, he offers a bit like some threat on the flanks and everything. He actually crosses a ball. So I would start Reece Nelson, probably Gabriel Jesus again. If Martinelli is fit, in particular him, if he's fit on Sunday, I'll play him as well. I mean, the midfield need to fix up. The back four need to fix up. Whether Ramsdale or Reyes, they need to fix up as well. And the manager too. So I'm telling you now, Tom, if we lose against City, I'll be ranting even more. We need to fix up.
I was like, you are ranting, so it's going to be even more ranting. But
there will be.
Thank you so much for joining me, mate. It's always an absolute pleasure to catch up with you. I hope you're doing good and well. But thank you. Really appreciate your time.
Anytime, Tom. Take care now.
Have a good one, mate. See you later. Massive thank you to Wilson for kicking off tonight's phone-in show. What a way to start things. We're going to go along the list of callers along the bottom, as I said just a second ago. If you'd like to join, the link is in the description. Make sure that you're over the age of 18. You've got a good internet connection, a quiet place to record, and, of course, a webcam as well. The only reason for that is, of course, so I can kind of judge whether or not you are over 18. Don't be offended. It's just the rules of the evening. I'm going to bring in and do correct my pronunciations of names, by the way, if I get them wrong. But Lai, tell me how to pronounce your name, mate, correctly.
Yes, that's correct, Lai.
Lai, thank you so much for joining me. I'm getting a little bit of feedback on your end, so you might want to turn the volume down, and then I won't be able to hear myself.
Okay, great. Give me 1 second. Is that better?
Checking. Okay, that sounds good. Yes, perfect. I can still hear myself a little bit, maybe go a little bit lower. But whilst you're sorting it out, tell me how you're feeling, Lai, about yesterday's game.
Better? I think it's probably better. Yeah. So yesterday's game, I mean, it was a disaster. It was shambolic, but you know, to react a little bit to what the last caller said, like I totally disagree with the idea that if the coaching staff and the medical team determine that Saka is fit, that he shouldn't play. Like, this is ridiculous. The idea, you know, this is Champions League that we're talking about, and the fact that we lost yesterday really signifies to me that we shouldn't be taking any of these teams, like, you know, as we should take them seriously. Let me put it like that. We should take them seriously. We should be going into a Champions League team with the best available squad that we have. This whole thing about you know, resting Saka and all that stuff. If he's injured, yes, he should be rested. But we lost yesterday. I guarantee you, if we lost that game without Saka playing, these same folks will come on here crying about, you know, why didn't Arteta play the best team, right? So this is Champions League. We haven't been in this tournament in ages. So we can't take it seriously. We played our best available team and we still lost. So we should be reflecting on that more than anything. And to talk a little bit about, you know, the goalkeeper, I don't think there's a situation here. It's quite clear to me that Arteta rates Raya more than Ramsdale. At least he's going with him right now. But we shouldn't pretend that we haven't seen mistakes from Ramsdale as well. So the one thing that I would say about David Raya is that the whole team played bad yesterday. So I don't know to what degree that we can necessarily just pinpoint him and say, hey, you made this mistake, you have this bad pass, and because of that, you should, the coach should change the goalkeeper again. No, I don't think so. I personally, I think David Raya is better than Ramsdale, and I like Ramsdale as a goalkeeper, but I think David Raya is better than Ramsdale. And if Arteta thinks the same, he should play him in, against Man City as well. So from my perspective, I don't think we need to, as a fan base, I don't believe that we should have this attitude. I really find it infantile, where we lost one game, and everybody has gone haywire. Raya made a mistake. Oh, Ramsdale needs to come in. I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. I think this is ridiculous. I think the whole thing is ridiculous.
With the goalkeeper thing, I think that there has been a little bit of an attempt to kind of create a divide. By the way, if you can check your headphones on, I think that's going to solve the issue, because I can still get some feedback. So that might be the way to. If you can plug those in, I think that will probably solve the issue. I'll power through. But I think that the issue is a lot of people have created kind of this divide, if you like, between supporters with the Raya Ramsdale situation. But I actually disagree with you regarding the Saka start. I wouldn't have started him. I don't think. I think I would have rested him, because what happened this weekend is we've now maybe lost it. Was it really worth the risk?
Yeah, I mean, see, I think people can disagree whether or not we start him or not. My view is, if we have a game that we need to play, you should start, especially when we're talking about Champions League, we should start the best players available. Because what really matters is winning the game. The performance, in my view, doesn't really matter as much. What matters is just for us to win the game yesterday, and then, we get out of the group and whatnot. I know that everyone wants us to beat Man City. I don't see that game that much different from any other game that we'll play. I know that if we beat them from a psychological perspective, it is good that, okay, you have this so-called rival, if you want to call them that or whatnot. But, that is a good thing to be able to get that, to be able to get over that hump. But if you are looking at a 38-game season, it shouldn't matter as much, this particular outcome. Like, we should be going into the Premier League games, with a more, trying to win every game, but the outcome really of one game shouldn't be indicative of the whole season. That's kind of like how I see it. That is a marathon more than anything. Yeah, if we draw or we lost, that shouldn't mean that we can't win the league or compete or whatever. But the Champions League game, in my view, is actually more important than playing City. It's going to be our 8th or 9th game of the season. Like, getting out of that group early, kind of like securing that, for me, is more important than this, this weekend's game. That's how I see it. Again, I get it if people think differently. I just think we, as a fan base, we think, we know better than the coaches. Now we are now in the realm of knowing better than the medical staff. Like, I don't believe that Mikel will play Saka if the medical staff did not think that he's ready, or if Saka thinks or believes that I can't do it. I don't think that. So the game at hand is what we should be focusing on, and that's what we should be putting our resources in, trying to, especially when we're talking about Champions League. This is a tournament that we haven't won before. It is a pretty important tournament. Like, if we're not going to win the Premier League, most of our fan base will say that, City is going to win the league anyway. So if that is the case, then we should be taking the Champions League very seriously, because we stand a better chance, if you want to put it that way,
of the amount of money we've spent in the competition, though, means that we should have a squad deep enough to compete.
No, I agree. We should definitely have a squad deep enough to compete. But again, I still think the Champions League is a very important league that we should be, it's a very important league that we should be playing our best players in. If they are available, they should be playing. Look at how City treats the Champions League. They play their best players all the time. They don't do this thing about resting someone or anything like that. They played Red Star. the other week, they played their first 11. So I just don't understand why if we're gonna be personally, if we were gonna rest Saka in any game, we should rest him in the City game. if you said to me, we have these two games, which one would you rest Saka in? I would say rest him in the City game, not in the Champions League.
Fair enough. I'm just going to mute you because I'm still getting that feedback. But I really appreciate you jumping on the show. It is very much appreciated, and I wish you all the best, even though we don't necessarily see eye to eye on that point. But thank you for jumping on, mate.
Thank you for having me.
Massively appreciate that. From Lai jumping on. Apologies for the slight audio issues there. Hopefully they're all sorted out now. Let's bring Alex into the conversation. Alex, how you doing, mate? You good? You well?
How are you? Good?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. What have you jumped on passionately to talk about, mate?
I'm just tuning in from the States, and just to kind of get a different perspective of it. But to kind of bring in, like, when I watch Arsenal, who I've watched for the past 10 years now as a 20-year-old. So when I watch them compared to when I watch international, like USA or any other team, really, I feel like I forget how spoiled I am to watch the quality of soccer or football, that Arsenal play compared to
play soccer. It's fine. I'm not precious. I'm not.
The quality that they play Arsenal compared to Team USA. And I just there's a level there to be had where we play levels above our competition almost every match, bar City, bar maybe Liverpool. And depending where we get in the Champions League this year, hopefully we'll be playing some steep competition deep on. But I think yesterday was kind of a throwback to how we were when it came down to quarantine football, that time, that era of Arsenal, where any given match, I had no confidence going into it. And not that I didn't have confidence yesterday, but coming out of it, I feel I had that same feeling in my stomach after the match where we should have won that game and we didn't. And there's multiple reasons as to why that happened, but not one standing out to us screaming, this is why we didn't win. You know, there's just a few points in there that needs fixing. And the frustrating part is that it's really dividing the fan base because there's the Havertz issue, there's the goalkeeper issue, no one's brought it up so far, but I love Odegaard, but he was almost non-existent yesterday. And that's a problem, you know, when it comes down to the tough matches where you need to be creating chances. And we did create some chances, but towards the end, when he got taken off the field, I thought, who's going to create now? You know, it was a right side of Fabio Vieira and Tomiyasu, and I don't think those link up well together. It just felt like no one wanted to create that incisive pass to finally break the defense down. And it was constant passing around the center backs. It was Rice, Saliba, and Gabriel just passing it back and forth to each other. And the occasional pass forward to Tomiyasu or to Smith Rowe. And they tried to drive in, but there was no way in yesterday. And that's also credit to Lons. Their defense is not to be underwhelmed because that team is a very well-organized team. And people forget they finished second in the league last year. It's not an easy place to go win. So it's not a meltdown. It's not, why did we lose? That was horrible. We should have won. We should have won, but it's not the worst case to go and drop points at. We do have Sevilla back-to-back. Now we need to win both of those matches, unfortunately. But I think it's very possible. I think there's a few tweaking areas to be had. But again, we're a very injury-prone team with Partey. I hate to say it, but Saka's been very available for us, but he does get these knocks every once in a while. And it's unfortunate because I feel like our players don't get protected as much as other teams do. And that can lead to what happened yesterday.
No, I think you summed it up well. I struggle with the kind of the hyperbole of yesterday, and I think actually you've brought kind of a calmer side to it, and I appreciate that. Clearly, that's why you subscribe to the channel. But what I do think is that there are reasons for concern, and I kind of picked it up with Lai a second ago. You know, he said that he felt like there was reasons to go strong. There was reasons that in the Champions League you should be starting players like Saka, and I empathise with that view. But I can't help but think, Alex, after, you know, summer after summer of investment and the strengthening of the squad, you know, we talked about the injuries. There was only two players missing yesterday, Gabriel Martinelli and Timber. They're the only two players that weren't available of the entire 24-man squad that we have. Of course, Thomas Partey was on the bench and not yet fully fit. We know that. But I didn't really look at the centre midfield or the defensive midfield position and think, yes, that's why we didn't win yesterday. So am I right to have these concerns that after all this investment and all this spending that we can't go to Lens with Martinelli out and Saka then gets injured and not have the players to cope with 2 absences, for instance?
100%. I feel we have the team, we have the depth. And if you look at almost a unanimous decision over the summer that we had the depth we needed to compete. Everyone was confident coming into the Champions League. Everyone was confident to compete with the Premier League and the domestic cups in between as well. So I feel the depth has been addressed. Whether the type of players that we brought in fit in the system is another issue to be had, because I'm a big supporter of Kai Havertz. I feel it's a little unjust to be, and I know I've been listening to your podcast for the past few weeks, so I know you also agree with me that personal attacks to Kai Havertz over the last few weeks have been horrible. And I feel that he was thrown into a side that was a champion competing side last year. And Granit Xhaka has huge shoes to fill. And I feel like that's showing now. And I also don't think he's playing in his natural, well-known position. And I feel that doesn't help him out either. So I don't think he was awful last night. I think he had his moments where he wins the ball back when he really needs to, deep in our half. And I feel that's very, very important for us off the ball. But that's another issue of a position that we have depth in, but are we playing the right players in the right positions? And I feel we've only seen the midfield 3 of Partey, Rice, and Odegaard once, and that was, I think, in the preseason or against Man City in the Community Shield. So, again, whether that's down to injury or not, I feel there's 2 options to this issue to be addressed, and it comes down to the manager, and it comes down to Arteta and how he manages our players and who he decides to play given every week. Or is it the quality of the players? Is it Odegaard didn't have a good match last night? That can affect everyone around him. That can show up on Nketiah's record, or last night it was Jesus, and Trossard had a horrible match last night. And was that due to the creation? He had one big chance missed, but I feel people are kind of blowing up on him as well. And I just don't think he had the creative insight that he usually has behind him, where he can dance around on the wing and put a cross in or cut in when he wants to and kind of keep the fullback on his toes. I just feel that specific lineup last night and where everyone was playing, and given the Saka injury as well, that changes everything, where it really shows how important those players are to us. And it makes me a bit worried because we have depth, but do we have them in the positions we need? Because when we take Saka out and we fill him in with whether it's Reece Nelson or any given situation, I feel it's a bit of a concern where we have the depth to compete and to fill in holes like the center back, the fullbacks. I feel confident. If there's an injury to, let's say, Saliba that we had last year, don't get me wrong, he's one of our best players and no doubt our best defender, but Tomiyasu can fill in at center back. We have Kiwior, who's a very solid defender. I feel there's positions on the field where if Odegaard goes out for a match, or if Saka is injured for this match upcoming on Sunday, I just feel I lose a lot of confidence in our build-up play, in our off the ball, in just holding possession, and more of just running between the lines. You know, he offers something that very few people on this planet can offer, and that's the dribbling, the crossing. It's just the diversity that keeps a defender on his toes, and I feel we get very one-dimensional when we don't have him on the pitch, or Odegaard, or even Martinelli. I mean, we've seen it. We're struggling to just score. So
yeah, no, I think it's good points again, well raised. I think in January that attacking position on either flank, I think more so obviously the right it needs to be looked at. You know, it's not going to be looked at. It needs to be looked at. I look at central midfield as well still, and as an area that maybe we can add something different of a high level of quality of something like box to box, something similar to that. That might work to kind of give Havertz some differences to give. I think for me, he's just not a centre mid. I know that there's arguments that he's improving in that area, and I see the evidence of that as well, but it's not enough for what I want from him. I see him as a player who's going to be better playing off of the number 9, closer to the box, and I think that we would benefit from someone a bit more dynamic in central midfield. It is still very early, and it's important to point that out, but I think it's fair that people have their concerns and have their question marks about that choice of Arteta's. Alex, thank you so much for jumping on the show. I really appreciate your time, mate.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good one.
Pleasure, mate. Have a good one yourself. Let's bring on our next caller. Again, Chetu joins us. Have I pronounced that correctly, or have I completely butchered it? Tell me.
You've got it perfectly right.
There we go. I'm on a
It's
roll
all
this
good.
evening. This is great. How are you doing, my friend? You good? You well?
I'm doing great. I was actually surprised you put me on. So I'm from India. It's 10:30 p.m. It's almost 11 p.m. right now. So I just want to let you know I follow your shows every day. It's 12:30 p.m. today. I listen to you every day when I just log into my office. So it's
Oh,
in
thanks,
fact I
man.
must mention I got to know about you via Harry Simeon. I used to follow his shows.
Oh, not him.
Via his
Oh,
shows
no.
I got to follow. Actually, we have a group of friends of Arsenal fans here, and we all subscribe to you and Harry Simeon. We call you the rationalist among all the people who cover Arsenal. You don't jump the gun on any opinions or anything. You take your time to analyze things. You come on the next day and you give a balanced opinion. We really appreciate that because we, as fans, quite far away, we always can only get the feel of what the feeling is on the ground from what listening to you guys there because all we can do is here is to listen to the commentators, which is again a load of BS. People like Gary Neville who have agendas. So at the last point you made, Tom, I actually wanted to
Oh, thanks,
talk
by
to
the
you
way.
about that.
Before you jump on, I really appreciate the kind words. They are very appreciated. And,
Yeah, yeah.
it can be challenging
You're,
at times. There's a lot of views flying around, and getting nice messages like that genuinely mean the world. So thank you for that. But yeah, go for it. Talk
you're
to me.
doing a great job. Keep going. So I just wanted to talk to you about Kai Havertz. The point I wanted to make was I don't blame Kai Havertz. It's Arteta.
Okay.
He was the one who bought Kai Havertz in. He was the one.
Yeah.
I do subscribe to your opinion. You had made that initially during preseason, knowing that since we dominate possession, we have 60 to 65% most of the times, be it home or away. Say, let's say 12 or 13 teams in the Premier League. So, what probably Arteta's opinion was maybe since we are playing so high up the pitch and we have good centre backs in Gabriel and Saliba who can push up, who have the pace and who have the physicality to deal with anybody they can they come against. He probably thought he could bring in Kai Havertz, put him in that left eight, and push him 10 yards further so he could get up the crosses at the end of the box and probably he could squeeze out 10 to 15 goals out of him because Xhaka almost got 7 or 8 goals last season. But the issue that we have right now is all the defensive work that Xhaka was doing, we have lost. Even Zinchenko, if you would have noticed during the games, is feeling a little bit unprotected because we don't have Xhaka there. And Kai Havertz doesn't run back. Because I do watch the games back again after live because I'm very emotional during the games. I watch the replays and I try to analyze it with whatever analytical knowledge I have. And I've seen that a lot of times. Every time we lose the ball, Kai Havertz is always 15 yards further behind where he's supposed to be compared to where Xhaka used to be last season. So I don't think I think we've genuinely lost the balance in our midfield because midfield was our best functioning part of our team last year. And this year, since we've lost that balance in midfield, we have lost that fluency in our play. We don't have that. Even if you would have, if you can take a case of reference as the 4-0 against Bournemouth, even though it was 4-0, that fluency wasn't there.
Yeah. I get and empathize regarding the Havertz line. I love the point about saying it's wrong to kind of point the finger at him in a way because it's Arteta that has committed to this guy, committed to him as a profile. And I think you're absolutely right. I can be Arteta's biggest defender, but I have said that it is a risk to sign Havertz, and this could be a sword that Arteta falls on if it goes wrong. And so far, it's not done enough to convince us that it is moving in the right direction. As we talked about, I think it was with Alex just then, I mentioned that I see Havertz as much more of a player that should be playing off of the striker rather than being given this responsibility as a central midfielder. Now, it's very difficult to see Arsenal who have invested £65 million in somebody that Arteta feels is going to be this midfielder in shifting him into another role for the long term or for an extended period. I've put out a lineup for the weekend that doesn't include Saka in case he's not fit. And for me, Kai Havertz is in the centre forward role, which is where he played against City in the Community Shield, with Jesus playing on the right and Trossard on the left of the players that are available. Some people have said Nelson should come in. I don't mind either or. I think Trossard's obviously the more experienced player, so I feel like I bank on him more in this game. But it's so hard without Xhaka to see the vision without seeing more evidence than we already have. Yes, Havertz, I think, is gradually improving. Yes, I think we're seeing more of him in games, and his confidence will grow, especially after that goal against Bournemouth at the weekend. But it's so hard to get like a tangible grip on what he does, because for so long, Granit Xhaka, despite scoring goals and despite getting some assists and having some good performances, was ostracized for the majority of his career at Arsenal. And in last season, he was lauded because of the goals and the assists that he got. It wasn't because of all of the other stuff that is less noticeable, but was still equally as important. It's because he started scoring, and it's because he started getting some assists. And so the wider audience can latch on to those things because they're numerical and we can measure them much more obviously, and they have a bigger impact on games. But the idea that the left 8 position is just about getting goals and getting assists, it's such a small fraction of actually what that role is all about. Do you have how much confidence, I suppose, do you have, Chetu, in getting Havertz to a level where we can appreciate him for what he is? And do you think that's even possible in this current system?
Well, Tom, let me start off. I think I have 3 points here. The first one was regarding the lineup that you had put up for the week that you just put across. I too had the same opinion because I don't think Reece Nelson is good enough to be starting on a big game. So why not rather have Havertz up front and move Jesus to the right, because he's played there in big Champions League semi-finals and he's done well in the right for City. They've won Premier League titles with playing Jesus on the left and the right. So I wouldn't mind that. That's first one. Second thing, again, asking me about Havertz, I don't think we will ever see the best of Havertz in Arsenal again. Because, like you mentioned, I completely agree. He's best off playing in the hole behind the striker, and Odegaard does that. He's our best player in that position. Probably you can rotate Odegaard for Havertz, and maybe then you can see you can get the best out of Havertz there. But playing him as a left 8, I don't think we're ever gonna see the best of him. It's just not his profile. He's just not that kind of player. And the third one was, you mentioned about the goals and assists regarding Xhaka last year. I guess that is the generation that we live in right now, because I started watching football from 03-04 when we were Invincibles. So I've been following football for the past 20 years. So in this day and age, what everybody cares about is goals and assists. That is the only thing that matters. Nothing else matters, It's all about XG, it's all about stats, how many sprints, how many tackles, how many interceptions. I hate stats, man. Please don't get me started on that. For me, it's all about the aesthetic, It's all about the aesthetics of the football. That is why I fell in love with Arsenal, the way they played, the way they moved the ball around. There was this aesthetic value to that, rather than just, ping the balls across from full back to winger and just get it cross the ball. That's what football was 20 years back.
Yeah, I think it's about a combination of both. I think the eye test is important, but there is an argument to be had that if all the evidence, all the numerical evidence is pointing in one direction, it shouldn't be ignored just because it doesn't fit what what one person necessarily sees, because there are unconscious biases. There are things that, make us see one thing that another person doesn't see and that we can't comprehend, and that there's numbers that are available to us that show us, like, for instance, at the start of the season, like, so many people felt that we weren't playing very well with Partey in the right back position. And yet, all the numbers were telling us that on average, across all of the metrics going forwards, even defensively and even individually for Partey, they were higher than the average numbers of last season. So
that's exactly my point, Tom. That's exactly my point.
If you know what I mean?
That's exactly my point. All Arteta did was he shifted Zinchenko from the left to Partey on the right. That's all he did. Nothing was different. But the point I was trying to make was we've lost a balance in the midfield because of Havertz. Because he doesn't do the defensive duties that Xhaka used to perform. We've lost that in Havertz. That's the reason why we've lost the balance in the midfield. And even Martinelli's game has been affected by that. He doesn't stick to the byline anymore. He doesn't stick out. He doesn't go out wide and try to isolate the fullback anymore. He's trying to cut in more and more to get the ball, to get involved in play. Saka is doing that more and more now.
I see where you're coming from. I don't align on the defensive aspect of Havertz, because I think that there are actually there's a lot of evidence to suggest that off the ball he's doing more than he's doing on the ball for Arsenal, and we want him to do more on the ball because we've invested 65 million quid in this guy. You want to see what he can do. what I do agree with you is on the relationships with certain players, Martinelli in particular, that hasn't yet gelled. He hasn't gelled with the squad yet. And that's what I think that the argument about patience with Havertz is still there to be had, because I think once those relationships have been established, who knows what Havertz we might see. But
can I put across one point, Tom, before I
one
can
quick one,
get
and then
off
I've
the
got to
stream?
move on, mate. Go for it.
Yeah, exactly. I knew that. Why can't Arteta play Jorginho deep and then put Rice up, move Rice further forward and play him in an 8 when we don't have Partey?
I don't have an answer. I don't know why he can't do it. I think that's something he could do. Yeah,
that genuinely would give us more balance in midfield, more defensive stability also.
I think maybe
if you would like to argue on that.
Maybe there would be an overcrowding slightly on the left in a deeper area when Zinchenko moves into the midfield, because Rice is, if you're going to play Vieira or Smith Rowe or Havertz, they are going to occupy the left half attacking space a lot more. And I suppose if Rice is there with Jorginho there and then Zinchenko comes in, maybe there's an overcrowding and it's too busy in that deeper half space. Maybe that's the reason. But I do think there is a good argument, especially against some teams, for Rice and Jorginho to be a starting pair. But Chetu, thank you so much for talking. I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome, Tom. It was great talking to you. Have a great
Likewise. Day. And say hello to your friends for me. I really appreciate all of you guys tuning in.
I will. I'm sure they're probably watching this right now live.
Lovely stuff. Thank you, mate. I'll speak to you soon, I'm sure. Massive thank you to Chetu for joining us. Always great to hear some kind words that people appreciate the channel. Now, I'm going to get Justice on the show, because I tell you what, of all of the callers that we get, I can obviously see people in the bottom of the screen. I've never seen someone more animated waiting to come onto a show than Justice. So, Justice, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, Tom. How you doing?
Mate, I could see you losing your mind down below.
I'm losing my head, man. Arteta got me losing my head, Tom. For real. Let's be real. I grew up in Africa where we see players with our eyes and we can tell you this player is not the deal. It's not the deal.
I assume you're talking about Havertz.
Yes, it's not the deal. Why are we over here talking about stats, talking about this? It's not the deal. It's not. I can't even walk. I can't even concentrate because we couldn't. I don't see nothing from this guy. Nothing from this guy. I'm screaming. My kids can't even sleep. I don't see nothing from this guy. Arteta is just being stubborn for no reason. For no reason. Play Jorginho and send Rice to where Havertz is playing right now. It's easy. I don't see nothing. There was a place yesterday where, if you watch the game, Gabriel gave a ball to Havertz. Havertz couldn't even pick up. Gabriel was mad. It's like the players are even scared to shout at Havertz because probably what Arteta have told them. He's not the deal. We gave you a penalty kick. I was in support of that. A lot of my friends were telling me, oh no, why? I said, no. Let him get his confidence, but Havertz is not. We are losing our defensive aspects of Havertz. He's not doing anything. He's not doing nothing. And I
disagree with the nothing. I absolutely agree. I agree with you about the frustrations that he's not delivered what a £65 million investment should at this point. And I'm with you with the frustration. And I know that a lot of fans are with you with the frustration as well. I think that there are things he is doing, but it's not to anywhere close to the expectation. And I think that's probably a fairer way of putting it than saying he's not doing anything. But I get your frustration. What happens for you now? Like, because where were you with Arteta? I'm just curious to kind of get a bit of context. Where were you with Arteta at the end of last season?
I've been Arteta in. I'm an Arteta sexual. I love Arteta to death.
Yeah.
Because what Arteta what Arteta is doing, to be very honest, people saying I'm overreacting. I'm not. What Arteta is doing, I'm with Arteta on board. I'm not saying that. I'm not having a meltdown on say sack Arteta or Arteta out. I'm not.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why I wanted to get the context. Yeah.
No, I'm not Arteta out. I'm Arteta fully in. Even if we don't get top 4 and we win the trophy, even if it's Carabao Cup or FA Cup, I'm Arteta in. I'm not Arteta out. My thing is Havertz is not working. Okay, my problem with Arteta right now is I know we bought Havertz for 65 million. He has his own ego, so he has a point to prove. But Havertz is not working. It's not. If we play against City, forget the fact that City have lost 2 games. They will shred us to pieces. We cannot play with Havertz in the midfield. Okay, Partey is back. If you want me to be happy, just play Partey at the base. Take Rice and send Rice where Havertz is playing and play Odegaard. That's the best way we can play. So we can be bringing Havertz in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the end of the game so he can pick up his form. But right now, Havertz does not do nothing. Tom Havertz is not doing anything. He's not doing nothing.
Again, I will say, I think he's doing something. I just don't think he's doing anywhere close to what I want him to be able to do. What does he need to do?
Somebody said Havertz is best off a striker. That's where Odegaard plays.
Yeah.
You cannot listen. Okay, I don't want to overreact on the camera or anything. I want to be serious. I want to be okay. Let me be calm, right?
Yeah, be calm. Take a breath. If you need to take a breath, take a breath.
Okay, Havertz does not give us anything. Havertz is so weak. He's so weak. He has no pace. He's weak. He doesn't do anything. Tom, we saw Xhaka for Havertz. Be sincere. You looking
so far a downgrade. I'm not going to argue against that.
We miss Xhaka. I will never sit on the. I never thought of myself thinking I will ever miss Xhaka.
Yeah. I've been there.
Yesterday I was watching AFTV and Turkey said something, right? We won Bournemouth by 4-0. Tom, where is our fluidity? We don't have no fluidity. We're nicking up points in there, and the only game I can have right now to think that we can go against City is against Everton. That was the best game we played this season for me, because I saw the composure, the defensive structure. That's why I'm even thinking like, okay, we can go against City, but we cannot play Havertz. Havertz is supposed to be on the bench for the rest of the season. On the bench.
I'm curious. What would you have to see from Havertz that would make you change? Because I don't want to get down into kind of this rabbit hole of, just goals and assists change people's minds. I know, but it's not just about goals and assists with players. It's not just about, because Xhaka got plenty of goals and assists last season, yet we still need to upgrade on him. So what is it for you that Havertz isn't doing? Because you say he does nothing, but I want to get more specific. What isn't he doing for you that he needs to do?
I don't even care about Havertz goals and assists. I care about his body language, right? Yep. When he scored the penalty against Bournemouth, right? There was an instance where he tried to play a through ball to Eddie, and Eddie lost that ball. They took the ball to the corner line. He was trying to play. He left it, went to the corner. I thought he was supposed to be like call the crowd up. He doesn't have that in him. Havertz is just slack. He just scored the penalty. He just went to the line. He's not enthusiastic. Like if I was in that position. If I was in that position, I'll pick up. You can see the fight. He doesn't have any. Havertz does not have any fight in him. That's his biggest. It's not about the goals or assists. Havertz does not have any fight. Okay, all these things are on your head. You make those kind of actions. Wake the crowd up. Act like there's something. He's so lanky, man. I don't like seeing Havertz on the lineup, man.
I'm lanky. Leave it alone. I'm 6'3" lanky. I'm proud of it, mate.
He's so sluggy. Just raise the crowd up. Like, do something with your body language speaks a lot. I don't care about his goals or assists, because to be very honest, he's still on the left side. We don't really. I cannot be expecting Havertz to score every week or play. At least just contribute to the game. He doesn't have any contribution. He doesn't do nothing. His body language is my problem. When I see Havertz, my problem.
I have no issue with that. I have no problem with that at all. I would love to see Havertz more confident. I'd love to see Havertz being more dynamic and more direct and, with more self-belief. And this is why I've talked about at length. It's such a risk for Arsenal to have invested £65 million in what is basically a revival project of an entire player's character. And at the same time, when we were in the summer and we just missed out on the title, and you're thinking, Arsenal are a club on the up. Arsenal are a club going places. And so when you sign someone and you invest 65 or 100 million pounds, you want to sign players that are going up. So that's why we spent 105 million pounds on Declan Rice, a player that's only going in one direction. That's why we spent 32 million pounds on Jurrien Timber, a player that's going in one direction. We signed David Raya, a goalkeeper that's only improved. Yes, there's been question marks about him, sure, but since he's joined the Premier League, he's only gone in one direction, which is better as a goalkeeper. Kai Havertz, a player that was designed to come in and take us from Granit Xhaka upwards, was a risk. And I'm very worried, like you, Justice. And I think that you're right to have your worries that he's a player that Arteta could end up falling on his sword a little bit with. If just to change the Havertz tactic, I want to ask you one more question, because we've got obviously a lot of callers waiting, but I appreciate you being patient earlier on as well. How do you feel about approaching the City game? Like, how would you approach that game if you were in Arteta's shoes?
If I was in Arteta's shoes, to be very honest, the same way we played with, because I felt like when we played City, Havertz had an effect. I think that's his best game he has played when we played the Community Shield. I think that's the best way. Again, I don't want to let people think I don't like Havertz personally, because I'm not talking out of the way I'm actually really sounding. I want Havertz to play at the center, right? Play Jesus. Yeah, hopefully Martinelli is back, which I'm not sure, and then play Trossard on the left. I don't care who Arteta plays up front. My problem is play Partey at the base, Rice and Odegaard. That's what I want to see. I don't care who he plays elsewhere, but in the midfield, that's where the game is won. They don't have Rodri. I think there's no Rodri. So if you play Partey, Rice, and Odegaard, we hold that midfield. Once we hold that midfield, anything can happen, because I know Havertz has a height. He's going to be able to, hopefully he can use his height to, to the step stones and Dias and all that, and have Jesus coming from the sides or Trossard. That's the only way I can play with City. But at the end of the day, honestly, I'm confident about the game.
Good.
Yeah,
and that's what we want to be confident. I wish I did, because I'm less confident.
To be honest, I'm confident about this City game. And I'll call back after that game. I'll call you back. I'm confident about that game. I think then...
Is it because of Rodri not being there that's a big factor for you?
No, it's not because of that. I believe the players have a certain mentality to bounce back. Like, I've been watching their Instagram stories and everything. I know Arteta is not that stupid. He knows the mistakes he has made. He knows what he can be able to correct. And I feel like we can go as City. Because right now, what I feel like City has to do is just the Doku guy. Once they play the ball to Doku, if Ben White can be very attentive, we can hold that. We can hold that threat. Because I believe now I can see the confidence in Gabriel. Gabriel is somebody who I can see that confidence in him. Like, I see him talking and communicating. I feel like he can keep Haaland a little quiet. Gabriel and Saliba, I feel like, and I have another problem. I feel like we bought in David Raya. This is the second game under pressure. Under Tottenham, his distribution was not good. Yesterday, that distribution was not good. We bought in David Raya. The concept was he's coming to calm down the defense. We've played 2 games now, two high-profile games. I don't think it's too much of a difference with Raya. I don't want to just judge him for right now, but the jury's out on Raya, because
jury's out.
Raya, man, Raya, man, he's actually dividing the fan base right now. To be honest, Raya and Ramsdale. Raya, you got to show something extra. Because we brought you in to calm down the defense, but his passing yesterday was awful. Very awful.
Justice, out of curiosity, where are you joining us from right now?
I'm from Texas.
And this is what the reason why I asked that question is because every time I've raised any kind of concern or like what you just said there in regards to the jury's out on Raya, and just keep your cards open around that. Usually the response I get in the comment section is it's English bias. And so I'm glad that we've got the outside perspective as well that are sharing the views with me.
I'm originally from Nigeria. I don't have anything against nobody. I'm just saying the jury's out for Raya because I don't see the difference between Raya and Ramsdale at this point. I don't see no difference, to be honest. And I feel like in this kind of high-profile games, Ramsdale is pumped up for it. I like the body language of Ramsdale when it comes, like games like Tottenham, Man City. Ramsdale is pumped up for those games. Raya comes to, and to be honest, Raya is slowing down our play. He's slowing down the play. He holds the ball too much. And this new generation goalkeepers, Onana, Raya, they will kill these new coaches. They will kill them, honestly. Because everybody wants.
I'm glad we don't have a Nana right now, that's for sure. He's not having the best of time. He's not having the best of times. But Justin, it's been an absolute pleasure you joining me. I appreciate your passion and your words, and I really do appreciate you joining us to take the time.
Appreciate you.
Have a fantastic evening, mate. See you later. Much appreciate Justice. Make sure you drop a like on the video, people. We're going to be getting some more guests on. They're stacking up. So what I'm going to do is we're going to stack 2 guests up together for the next section. Abdul's going to join us. And TJ is going to join us as well. So let's get Abdul and TJ into the conversation. How are we doing, boys? We're good? We well?
Yeah, we're well, hopefully. Can you hear me?
I love that you're speaking for Abdul there. That's good. We're well. Love it.
I'm not doing, man, I was having a good week until the game. Wasn't the greatest game yesterday. So, thing is, I have a newborn and I've been watching every Arsenal game with her. Trying to thanks, and I was trying to get her more engaged with soccer and everything. Obviously she's just 7 months, but it's just that bonding moment, and it just sucks when when we end up losing because It's not the greatest feeling, and there's a lot. I have a lot to say. There's a lot to say, and a lot of frustrations, just from the transfer window all the way up until today's game. Still not like, even in our performances. Like, the only performance that I was convinced of was just against PSV. That's the only convincing one that I've seen so far. Every other one I feel like has been kind of iffy, to be honest. It's not.
Pretty convincing against Bournemouth.
Like, what I mean by convincing is that at no point did I feel like the other team was in it. You know what I mean? Like, against, like, even against Bournemouth, at some point there were some times where when they were attacking us, I was a little bit worried. I mean, obviously our defense is really solid, but at no point, like at PSV, at no point did I feel like worried at all. Like, I was confident from the beginning till the end. From the performance, it was so controlled, so well done by the team, that that's like the only win that I was like, just not, at no point did I feel worried. Like, I know once we got the third goal in Bournemouth, it kind of like, you get that feeling of like, okay, now we're good. But like, even when we were 1-up or 2-up, I still had that feeling. Maybe it's just because it's the Premier League. I mean, against Brighton last year when we were up 3-0, they almost made a comeback. So but yeah, it's just that like kind of feeling that I have right now, and I don't know what it is. Is it Havertz? Probably part of the reason. People talking about David Raya is the way to go if we want to compete. Well, he made the mistake yesterday. Very, like, at the end of the day, people make me feel like Ramsdale's not allowed to do mistakes, right? Like, if everyone's a human, people do mistakes. Raya did a mistake in the game. Doesn't mean that overall they're awful. Are their mistakes consistent? If it's one mistake in like 15 to 20 games, so be it. You know what I mean? Like, Ramsdale did what? How many mistakes that last year? Maybe, like, I think there were like, what I remember, like 3 mistakes in the overall season. But overall, like, he was really solid, and he was part of the reason we made top 4. So, I mean, I get you want to play David Raya in the league matches, but why is Ramsdale not playing? Like, why was Ramsdale not playing in yesterday's game? Like, he should still be getting some game time. Like, you shouldn't just automatically decide that Raya is going to be better and more efficient to us than Ramsdale. Play Ramsdale in those games, play Raya in those games, and then we can determine when we're seeing them game in and game out, we can determine who the better goalkeeper is. But that's just a goalkeeper situation. Havertz situation, it goes from the transfer window. I'm not against us signing him, by the way. I'm not against the signing. I'm against how much we paid for it. Like, that's just a gamble. Like, the player is going down. Oh, well, then we'll just buy him for 60 million plus. Like seriously. Like, the max you would go for him was like 35, 40. Like, a player like going down, like, that's the max. You that's like, okay, you know what? He's a quality player, but he's also on the downgrade. So, like, and I don't think we were competing for him with any other team at any point. There was no. I just saw it as a signing that Arsenal was just telling us fans that, like, see, like, we're going for our signings and we're closing them off as fast as we can. I don't feel like Havertz was a signing that like kind of like they use that to prove a point, but I feel like it was the wrong point to prove, and it's just the wrong player to do it on. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, like, you can see the quality we got with Rice. Like, man, I love this guy. He's the only player that I see moving forward with. Like, obviously, when Martinelli and Saka are not in the team, and like, Rice is the only player in yesterday's game that I saw him taking the ball forward. Everyone else would just pass the ball back, right? Like, Rice would go, he would dribble, he would dribble past 1 or 2 people, make a pass, and then guess what? Pass the ball back again. Like, let's go for the play. And the only time we kept moving forward was in the last 3 minutes when we had that chance for Nelson. That was like why were we not playing like that for the entire second half? Right? We only scored 1 goal off of their mistake. That's not good.
Yeah, I think it's a lot covered there.
Yeah. I mean, I told him, I just have a lot to say.
I know it showed. Yeah,
there's just so much.
I was going to say, DJ, what are your thoughts on Abdul's words there? But there's a lot to break down. But I'm going to let you tackle it as best you can. Go for it.
Sure. Well, firstly, congrats on the newborn, and hopefully you're doing what James McNicholas is doing and holding the child up and doing the Wacko Hey song.
Can't have it, Scott.
Exactly. There is a lot to tackle. I'm just trying to think where I would go first. Rice. I'm of the opinion that we'll see Rice and Partey together, and Rice will be in the 8, and Havertz will be moved to maybe right wing or Odegaard's position at some point. Arteta is very belt and braces in certain games. Whether he'll be very conservative against City, time will tell. Nelson, I agree with you, Tom. I don't think we'll see him starting against City. I think that'd be a big gamble. That would be something that Mikel probably wouldn't do. Jorginho he's a player. Both Pep and Arteta, they were both on record saying they rated him really highly because of, intangible stuff and ball control stats and things like that. Was it Justice that was talking about
it started off a bit of a rant, to be fair.
No, it was great. It's 5 a.m. in the morning here, so I'm wide awake after that. So whether the numbers bore out on Havertz or not, you could see the process of the positions that Xhaka got in to where theoretically Havertz was going to be. I would have Havertz out wide now that maybe Saka's, the Black Knight from Monty Python that's, missing an arm and a leg every minute we play him. Tis a scratch, But it'd be the reverse process where he'd be making diagonal runs from right wing into center positions, if you get what I'm saying, rather than Xhaka on the left, diagonal runs to the left wing. It'd be right wing reversing to centrally, and then Jesus in center forward moving to the right wing positions. So they'd be moving as a front two, but they'd be interplaying, and maybe Trossard out on the left, and maybe you push Rice into the 8. Maybe it's Emil Smith-Rowe, maybe something like that. Reacting to the rest of what Abdul said, I'm trying to remember most of it now. Like I said, goalkeepers. It's goalkeepers. It's hard to make a conclusive thing after 3 or 4 games.
Why do you think there's a desperation to make a conclusive thing? Right.
I think there's a large part of the fan base that sees the mistakes that are made, and those mistakes are ones that go on the scoreboard, and they're the easiest to moan about. As for, long passing comparisons and ball playing stats, like people are going on about Onana, how he has the most passes at Man U by a long way, or things like that.
Pretty well for them.
They're comparable. They're comparable sort of players, but they're also players that I would have personally played Ramsdale at Bournemouth because it's his old club or whatever, and then you don't sort of have the I hate this word, the narrative of one being out in the cold, and then fans start to sort of arc up. That'd be the way I would view it, but it's all about emotional intelligence and things that fans don't know about that happen, in training. What Inaki, the goalkeeper coach, what his philosophy is. I would actually like to hear from him about this sort of stuff, but we're never going to hear that. So,
I doubt it.
Yeah, there you go. I'll not rant on.
I doubt Iñaki Kaida's going to be on doing a one-on-one interview. It'd be great if we could grab him for a chat to understand his thoughts, but
even a polite tweet.
I think it's a lot to digest when it comes to selections and decisions, because we are so early on in the season. We do these phone-in shows, at different points throughout the year, and often they're at different times. And there's always, with the way football goes, something that's always going to have to be given time to evolve. Havertz is that, the goalkeeping situation is that, but one of the things I do get the most frustrated about, and Abdul, I want to get a quick answer from you and a quick answer from TJ on this before we move on to the next caller, is that there's this idea that Arsenal lack depth. But is there an argument that we technically shouldn't by this point, because we've invested a lot of money and cultivated a squad? I know that we're like, we still need a Saka backup, and we still need we've lost Timber for this season and things like this. But there's an argument that with just Timber and Martinelli out, we shouldn't have been complaining about a lack of strength in depth with just 2 players out yesterday, should we? As maybe much as we saw. Abdul,
Go forth, Abdul.
All right. I don't think so. I think I think the issue here, and I'm not against Arteta. I was against him early on.
It always has to be said. Like, before anyone comes out of a criticism, it always has to be caveated with. By the way, I don't.
I'll tell you why. I was against him in the first couple seasons, and I never liked his man management, his style. I'm still not a fan of it, to be honest.
Sure.
But he did. Like you have to admit, the team is playing a lot better, right? The team's improved a lot last year. There's been a lot of improvements. If you can't see it, then I don't know what to tell you, right? But the improvements have been there. The man has an idea. He has. There was one time in one of your in the morning shows where I told you my issue with him is that he makes me feel like he's the next Messiah in football as a coach, and what I mean by that is that he makes me feel like he does no wrong. He's not learning from the mistakes that he does. It's kind of what kind of annoys me. Like the man management that he's had early on, he still has it, right? Like he treats like Havertz shouldn't be playing, but like based on like what I've seen from Arteta as a coach, Havertz shouldn't be playing or starting in any game, yet he is still playing and he is still starting and he's still giving him those minutes and that time when like other players never had that chance. And like Smith Rowe, for example, he should have started in yesterday's game. Like the lineup that you had set up for yesterday's game, I was like, that's the exact lineup that I would have went with. And I was like, I'm pretty sure about 80 to 90% of the Arsenal fans would probably pick a very similar lineup with some tweaks here and there. But it was just so convincing that I was like, that's the lineup that we're going with. And it was a completely different lineup. And the reason I'm saying that is because we have the depth to do it. That's the whole idea why we went and we invested in the summers, because we have the depth to go and put Jorginho in. Like he should be able in a like if he can't do well in a match like this, then we need to raise questions, right? Maybe then we need to sign someone instead of him in January, right? Because the January window is coming up, and we need to figure out like the players that will step up and the players who will not step up. Then maybe we need to sign some replacements in January if we actually want to go and win the league this year or do well in the Champions League. Correct. So my issue is that you're not giving these players a chance, or you're not putting them in the right position. Like Partey should be playing in the midfield. And in the beginning of the season, he was. Now I know the stats show that we were doing better and had more control, but if we're not scoring goals, it doesn't matter. And if we're not stopping the other team from scoring, it also doesn't matter, right? So the idea is that against Man City, I would love to see the lineup where every player is supposed to be playing and not any tweaks. I know like Partey is back now, and I just hope that we don't see any tweaks. Like against Manchester City, I want to see the main team. And the reason I wouldn't have put Saka as yesterday's lineup is because like you want him rested for City. Like City's going to be a more difficult game. I mean, no disrespect to any other team, but City right now is the team to beat, and we should have had our best lineup well rested for that game. And then what we ended up is we had a lot of our main players played in yesterday's game, and we still lost. Like you took the gamble, and we still lost. Like it just doesn't make sense to me how the decisions are made, and it's not like I know any better than him. Of course, he knows better than me. He's in the situation. He knows what's going on. But some questions need to be raised in his decision making, in his rotation.
Abdul, it's fine to question. Like I think there's always this importance that people are encouraged to be critical but measured. And I don't think there's anything wrong with asking the question, why did you start Bukayo Saka ahead of such an important game when we know that he had a knock for the Bournemouth game? We know that he had an issue, I think, that the week before that as well.
100%.
Training. It's fair to ask that question.
I was so like I'm supposed to be happy when I see him playing, but man, I was devastated when I saw Saka on the lineup. I was like,
Yeah.
this man should be resting. Like, and I have him in my fantasy too.
Yeah, so did I. So did I. It was always going to be the way he played, so it was an obvious pick. TJ, just to we'll round off on this. I wanted to ask you the same question about the depth and the idea about how much we've invested. In all of these areas, we were only missing 2 players from the 24 yesterday, and yet there was all this discussion about we don't have enough strength in depth. Is that something that maybe isn't being discussed enough?
It's contextual. It's, as Abdul said, there's an arrogance kind of in the load management that Arteta has, whether it's a media sort of thing where he doesn't answer questions or he lies about injuries or it's all game and things like that. The door closes quick on some players. Some people question why Nketiah gets a massive run and Nelson doesn't see the live day, and Smith Rowe, and they're managing injuries that may or may not be there, and then we're rumoured all the time with things because we're Arsenal and it's clicks, and then that's a story, and then that sort of floods a fan base with panic. I personally would have the main part that I saw a lack of depth was the midfield 8, whether we have Thuram, and now God forbid, we're rumoured with Rabiot, which would be the most Arsenal signing of all signings, which would just, if that happens, I think you just dread. Yeah, Abdul was talking about the dread of seeing Saka on the starting lineup and not wanting him to get injured. Rabiot, you dread when he's playing and anything could happen. Talk to any, what's the French journalist of the Guardian? Philippe, whatever his name is, I forgot. Yeah, talk to him about Rabiot and his history, not just as a player, but behind the scenes. And he's a bit of I won't say locker room cancer, but he's not the answer for whatever depth issues we have. He creates a chasm. Are we lacking? We are, but we've also not played youth players. That's another thing that I've it's contextual, of course. Everything's contextual. I keep saying that. But do you want to see spot minutes for Walters? I do. Do you want to see Nwaneri or another player like we saw the winger in the cup that I've instantly forgotten the name of, something junior?
Stago Junior.
Yeah, and that's a thrill, and that's great. Let's keep that sort of going. But the cohesion and the joined up thinking doesn't seem to be there, is I think the main plan. And the benchmark that I have for this sort of stuff is, what would Klopp do? Would Klopp ease someone in? Would Klopp give them a run where they come in passionate and fired up and things like that? That's why I was talking about Ramsdale getting a game against Bournemouth. Would he'd be fired up for that? Or even his first game in Europe, he's probably mentally fired up for that as well. Do you have sort of robots in the youth team? No, I don't think you do. I think you've got sort of young players that come in and add something, and that transfers to the senior team. It gives a spark. It does something. So that's my 25-man squad. It's the same as Pep. It's the same as numbers don't lie, that sort of stuff. But it's how it's done, not just a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what Justice said earlier, about these frustrations of Kai Havertz saying he doesn't do anything. I also don't agree with the labeling of saying he doesn't do anything. I think what he did say is that he lacks, it's the body language that's frustrating him, and it's that lack of kind of not commitment. I think that's the wrong word. Just application, I think, and really trying to show that he's trying his absolute 100% to fulfill what the manager sees in him. And I don't think he's shown that yet.
He's still scared. He's still tense. He's not letting go. You know what I mean? He's not.
Yeah.
He's not just like letting himself play. He's holding himself back. Just remember when you were playing football as a kid. Like, remember that and just play. Like have fun on the field.
It's a laconic apprehensiveness that I'm a bit worried that for some reason Arsenal fans have German post-traumatic stress syndrome with Ozil and Mustafi and whoever else. Podolski was one of my favorite players of all time. So So but he's a weird guy as well. So maybe Havertz. If you want to support Havertz, my tip is he's got a donkey charity. Go out and donate to that, and that's my weird.
Does he really have a donkey charity?
Yeah, he does.
Wow.
They wrote it on The Guardian, again, back to referring to them. There's I think when he was at Chelsea, he's very sort of kind, relaxed, calm sort of dude and not fired up about anything. He's just
he seems very chill, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Maybe too chill. I'll have to wait and see. Abdul and TJ, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate your time, guys.
See you, Tom.
Pleasure, boys. Enjoy the rest of your evenings / day if you're TJ at 5 a.m. in the morning. So yeah, thanks for it. See you later. Have a good one. Let's bring in our next callers to the show. We've got Advertus and Dan joining us. Sadly, these are going to be our last two guests. So I'm afraid I've got to close. So everyone that's down below that's joined us late, I'm really sorry, but we have sadly run out of time. And Advertus and Dan are going to be our last people to join us. Advertus, I think it's your first time on the show. Welcome. How are you?
I'm okay. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, fellow guests.
No problem at all. No problem. Dan, how are you? It's been a while. Not seen you.
Good, man. Are you over your sickness on Monday?
You look okay.
You look okay. You look fresh. You look fresh.
It's when you're on the Eurotunnel, sitting in a car that's on a train that's moving to then get your laptop out and start writing an article, because that did not make me feel too good at all. But I still did it and got through it. But thank you for asking. Yeah,
you look fresh, my friend.
We're nearly all the way there. Advertus, tell me what you've jumped on to talk to us about.
Pretty much I watched the game, and I know sometimes it's hard when we lose and people try to scapegoat people and pinpoint because nobody wants to lose. And sometimes, especially when a team does not play like the way you want it to play. And my insight from the game yesterday, I think the players probably overlook the team they were playing, maybe because of the record. But actually, nobody did not play any good football yesterday. Maybe, like you say, I'll probably pick Rice if I'll probably pick up anybody, at least one person, because you can see that he gave everything. And like one of the callers said, every little ball we had yesterday was all the time being sent back. And if you want to play the game and you want to score, you have to always attack. And I'm sorry that Saka is that person, and maybe Martinelli will have that characteristics to move the ball forward or to take that risk to eliminate, the defender who didn't have anybody there on the field at that time, especially when Saka left. But then my point was that why is the coach still watching the game and every ball we got deep in the people have is always being pushed back, especially when we want to score? What was the plan? I didn't know the tactic that was being used yesterday, especially when we were 1-0 up. If you're 1-0 up, the team is already weakened for some period of time. You're going to explore that space or that avenue to score more goals. And another thing, we had chances. We just did not take our chances like in the past games. And we have to learn how to kill games, especially when we score right away. And that is still lacking. Like, while some people say that there's no fluidity in the team right now, we're lacking certain characteristics. I know we're looking at Kyle Havertz, but the coach should know that he has given him the benefit of the doubt. And there are some players in the past that I've been watching Arsenal since 1998. And so there are some players that will come, it's going to take them a long time to settle into the team. Sometimes you will not pick up your rhythm until after 10, 15, 20 games. And I mean, sometimes it's football. I play football from a young age. I played in my country up to second division level, which is like maybe the championship level. But it's always like that. So if it's something not working, sometimes you try to let me bring Carver in maybe like 10 or 15 minutes into the game. Or maybe his only guy is not playing today. Let me start him so he can play in that position because that's the best position. If you try him one way and it's not working, you try another way, it's not working. There's so many options. That's what make you as a coach. But the game yesterday, I mean, we played like a baseball performance. It's nothing we did yesterday with the passion. There was nothing that we could win the game. Ryan made one mistake. I'm not treating that as a mistake. He kicked the ball the distance that the guy intercepted that ball. That was so far away. That was very, very far away. They probably on the red wing, on the center half of the opposition half. That's where that ball landed. He came back in the score. Everybody's now looking at Ryan because I know his distribution yesterday What I expected him to hold or to just control the game because we're already 1-0 up. Why you want to put the ball that quick in succession right away when there's people going to be attacking right away? So, I mean, he rushed the play, and at the end of the day, it came right back to him. So he was at fault, and everybody going to look at him. But the team did not play from the goalkeeper all the way to the top. We had chances. We had chances that we were killing the game. The first half, even the first 25 or 30 minutes, should have been 2 or 3-0 up in that game. We had a chance, but we did not take it. And there's a problem I still get up to now. Why we did not buy a prolific striker in the span 67? I'm not going at Kai Havertz. I know he's a good player. I know the coach saw something in him. But that money could have brought a prolific striker that could have taken all a long way. We saw that 2 years ago.
$55 million buys a prolific striker these days? I don't know if it does. I don't know if it does anymore. You know, it used to.
Yeah, but Tom, sometimes I know sometimes we go for the high profile players, right? But if you go in some other leagues in Europe, there are players. Look at it. I've seen Haaland. I've been monitoring Haaland since Australia. When you're in Australia, I'm telling you.
Austria.
Yeah, Austria. When you were in Austria, the first time I saw the brother information on your news on him, I knew that I saw that potential in him. Even when you want Borussia Dortmund, you know how Arsene Wenger have made so many players, Ronaldo and the likes to Arsenal, and he did not take them. Sometimes I know now it's worse that players are being high overvalued and stuff, but that money could have get a good player, a very, very prolific striker. Even if not 25, 30 goal striker. Sorry, it's my alarm for them.
Right, I've been there. I've been in the meeting where that's happened.
Who is it?
Havertz is just sorting out his phone quickly on that.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, I've got to ask you, right? So I missed live the first half. I was coaching. I coached my girls on a Tuesday. Did they have a bank of 5 in that first half, Lance? Did they set up with 5 at the back when we were attacking?
Originally, I'm trying to think if they did. I know that on the I'm just now checking the lineup. Let me have a quick look. I think it was. Yeah, it was. It was a back 3, and then they had wing backs because Frankowski's not like a fullback; he is more of a winger. So he was kind of playing wing back, and then you had Gradit, Danso, and Medina playing as a back 3. So yeah, kind of.
Now you how do I say this? You never had too much time this morning because of you needed to travel, and you said you'd be doing a fun analysis. I've been on for about half an hour, and there's one thing that not anybody has mentioned: the fact that second half they sat with 5 at the back. Now we've not played against the team with 5 at the back since Mourinho was in charge at Spurs, or since Sam Allardyce was in charge of Bolton. We've not dealt with that. Right now, what I'd be saying is, because we're all in the same boat about Havertz, that he's not doing what Xhaka did. But what Xhaka did and what Xhaka was great at, we never saw really until the last 12 months that Xhaka was with us. The previous 2-3 years, we're all arguing he's getting yellow cards. He was playing too deep. He weren't in the position that he played. So we've all got to have that realization that it took 5 years really to get the best out of Xhaka in the best role that we saw him. Right now with Havertz yesterday, and when you've got a bank of 5, he can't play those passes. He's not playing those passes, and Trossard naturally sits deep. I know because of time and stuff, so it's to be maybe a longer chat another time. But I looked at your team selection, and if we did take Saka out, nobody would put Fabio Vieira on the right-hand side. So where did that come? Like, you never put Fabio on the right-hand side.
He's like the only left footer that can play in that area. Do you know what I mean?
But why would you not put Smith Rowe or even Nelson over in that position?
Well, it's funny because when we did our preview, the mini preview on Tuesday, I think I did put Vieira right wing.
Right. Well, I'm not castrating you. I'm just
no, that's fine.
I'll follow it up. I'll follow it up by saying,
"Oh no, I think I did."
No, I didn't mean it. I've got an under 13 boys team, and I play a left footer as my right winger because he can turn in and he can ping it. And
that's why I think
goals.
he would put Vieira there, because he's the most natural one to invert on the right. So, but I don't think he works. I don't think it necessarily works. Like, the reason why I put Vieira there was because I put Smith Rowe and hold on, I think I still have it unless I've changed it. But what was the team? Yeah, I have got it. So it was Jorginho, Havertz, and Smith Rowe in midfield, and then Vieira and Nketiah Nelson with the front three. And the only reason it wasn't like massively tactical, it's just because I wanted to see loads of rotation. Because I was so focused on City, I was like, look, I'd rather go rotated and change and lose than go full strength and lose like we did. So, you know.
It's funny, isn't it? I think we all scream that, Tom, you're in a luxurious place of seeing it. And my God, I've got to say, what an atmosphere it looked like from the TV. Like, I don't think I've actually seen an atmosphere like that in a long time.
The closest is Newcastle away. That's the closest that I can think to it. But
the Anfield, the Cop, 10 minutes before the game.
Sadly, not been to the Cop yet. So that'll be something.
I mean, but I don't know. Like, it's really awkward. I screamed at the TV for 15 minutes there. It took 15 minutes for Smith Rowe to get a touch. We kept playing it to the right, Smith Rowe was there. He was getting the space. I know what Arteta is thinking. If Declan Rice isn't to the left-hand side, he needs to have his anchor there. If the anchor's on the right-hand side, Arteta will play to the right, or the players will play to the right. If Declan Rice is to the left, it will play to the left. If you watch it, it's really, well, you've seen it. You see it more than me live. I don't know what I really want to say other than too much that Havertz, we are scapegoating him slightly. He's not going to be there. What I could see is Yuri Timber in, Zinchenko more in the midfield, Havertz out and on the bench, and that's what you would see. We're not going to be able to see that for a period of time, and I think that's what we were building towards. I don't think Havertz was ever going to be a start for us, and I don't mean to rant on, but I would like, in this crazy, crazy age, give Havertz a run in the middle. Jesus on the left. I know this is crazy. If Saka is fit on the right, and let Zinni come in and have Tomiyasu on the left, or
to play Zinchenko in midfield.
Yeah, just give him
not alone. I know a lot of people. I've talked about it before. Yeah, and especially Havertz as centre forward. He's I did my Man City team. And I put Havertz. If Saka's not fit, I play Jesus on the right, Havertz through the middle, and Trossard on the left. That would be my front three.
I don't think, and I'm sorry to keep talking, but I don't think he's.
Havertz will be back in a second. Don't worry.
Sorry, man. I'm really, really sorry, but the only thing I'd say is that he obviously doesn't look comfortable in that situation. We're trying to expect that he's going to do the Xhaka passes, and the only person that can put that in between those channels is Zinchenko. Or Smith Rowe, but we don't know.
We don't know, and I think that Zinchenko playing in midfield is certainly something that I'm happy for Arsenal to explore, especially because I think Tomiyasu's second best position is left back. I think his worst role, I talked about this morning, I think his worst role is actually right back. I think that he's best in either left back or in that centre half position. Advertus, you obviously were listening there to a lot of what Dan said. How would you go about approaching the game this weekend?
I mean, first of all, I'm looking at the players. The players have to go in with that mindset that they are ready to play, they can beat City. And sometimes when I watch them play City, like they grade City more than themselves, the players of City more than themselves. And sometimes I think to myself, why you guys are all playing on various national teams? You're playing the same league. Why you think these people are always better than you people? They can hold the ball better than you. They can do exactly what you can do. But then I don't understand what the mindset is when they go into the game. And sometimes by the time we look, we're already down 1-0 or so. So I'm first of all looking at the player have to go with that mindset. Hey guys, midweek, we let our fans down. This time around, let us go in with everything that we have and play this game and make and satisfy our fans. Because at the end of the day, we understand people travel far and near to go to the games, and we are hurt. And in much I may not spend a lot of money to support them, but we are still hurt because this is the team that we love so dearly, and we're going to get everything for it. So the coach need to go there without the Redford team, like you said. If he still want to start Trossard, Carl Herbert, then it's going to be a problem because the actual position that he can play is not available with him right now. If you can do that in your FA Cup or in your Cali Cup or maybe a lesser team in the Champions League, that's fine. But in this game, if you want to start Carl Herbert, then you have to put it in a well position. And that will not be feasible because you have to drop Odegaard. So the player need to go there with that mindset, stay focused from the first minute to the 90th minute, and take their chances. Take their chances. There are goals that we got more goals to score than we miss more goals than we score. Especially like last season, in the first 10, 15 minutes, sometimes 1-0 up, 2-0 up, because the focus of that were going there with a killer instinct to win the game at first and not care about the opposition. But now, since the league started, I don't know what's going on. Maybe they changed your tactics or something not working. I mean, only themselves can answer. We can just sit there and criticize and analyze. It may not change anything because the coach, I hope he can come on and watch some of the programs and hear what we got to say and go by and say, okay, this analyst said this spectator said this, their fans said this. Let me understand and see what they're trying to say. Let me try this, let me try that. And at the end of the day, we need to stick behind our team. When we lose, we win together. That's why we are fans. And we shouldn't lose and we shouldn't lose and discourage the player. We win, then we support the player. One day, somebody's going to shine. Another day, somebody's going to do worse. That's the game. That's the game of soccer. You prepare, the other team is prepared. You come to it, and that's the game. And we as spectators, we see more than you on the pitch because they are under so much tension. So it's just different. I understand they are professional, they are being paid, but this game they have to go. We cannot lose the game. The best we can get from the game is a draw, which because City is the best team in the world right now. But we have to go there with that killer instinct and make sure that we take our chances. If we don't take our chances, trust me, Tom, I won't see you coming all there with less than 2-0 down.
I think one of the big themes. Sorry, Dan. I'm just going to quickly say. I think one of the themes of the show has been about the mentality, about the mindset of the group. You know, Justice was on talking about Havertz and saying that he wants to see more, you know, commitment, application, just better body language from him. You know, it's not necessarily about goals and assists. It's just showing that the players they're committed and ready to really fight for things to improve his own form. And we haven't necessarily seen that. And I think like last night, there was something lacking. You know, it didn't seem like Arsenal were ever really going to get back into the game. I know that they defended deep, as you were saying, Dan. They sat with that bank of five and they had the four in midfield in front of them as well, with kind of one outlet striker and the quick players down the wings to feed Wahi in the end to get the winner. But it didn't feel like there was that desperation to really get it until the last few moments. We had that ball in the box and there was a bit of a melee. I think Jesus and Nelson were involved with the goalkeeper, but it never felt like we were really grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck like we have done in the past. You know, I think about that PSV game. We absolutely went into that game with the right mindset. Like we're returning to the Champions League, back in the big time. We're going to score early. We're going to take the lead, and we're going to go and build upon that, score again, and hit them hard and go 3-0 up in the first half. You're like, I want that Arsenal on a regular occasion. And I know that we were missing some players, and I know that Saka's got injured part of the way through the game. But with the amount we've spent, the amount of depth that there is, even losing Saka, what I don't want to lose, even though I know we've lost a level of on-field quality, I don't want to lose the mindset that we're still gunning for the opposition to try and get that result. While saying that, Dan, one thing, and this is kind of, we'll round off on this, one thing I was said about yesterday's game was that I think I was chatting to Judges earlier on, and one of the things he said to me, I'm sure he won't mind me sharing it, was just that he felt like when we went 1-0 up, he felt like a different manager or more experienced manager may have managed the game better and may have been a little bit more conservative. So even though we're sitting here saying we need to gun for teams and go 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, that maybe in that environment, a more experienced coach would have managed it. So what do you think about that argument?
I mean, I don't know. I do want to revert and just say I think he missed the trick not playing Emil Smith Rowe. There would have been a perfect opportunity yesterday. And I'm sorry to go off on a tangent that on Sunday, Emil Smith Rowe against Calvin Phillips, to me, I'd have no worry about Calvin Phillips with Emil Smith Rowe. He's hardy, what we say in Ireland with an English weird accent. I think if he'd have given that chance there yesterday, and he's industrious as well. Sorry to come back to your question. I don't know, Tom. I think if you're going to try and soak up the pressure, I'm not one of these that because what that leads back to is counter-attacking football, which we've never been. And not in any disagreement to the guy's faults, but you do have to have that. Okay, if you're gonna suck up a bit of pressure and not try to be over exuberant with your counter-attacking, there is a way to play that and to pass it round. It all comes down to the system of the other team, though. It all comes down to the system of the other team. And if they're throwing low blocks, it's hard for us, and we've always had that problem. And that's where we need those penetrative kind of passes coming through. And that's where it comes back, and I don't want to bash him, is Havertz doesn't do it. I see the stuff that he does off the ball. I've watched him off the ball. I've watched him live off the ball. Yeah. But it's the penetrative passes, and we didn't have that yesterday. Or that jerkiness of a Smith Rowe, Trossard coming in. He didn't come inside. He couldn't come inside. There was nowhere to go inside for him yesterday.
I really want to see Trossard play where Havertz is playing.
I'd love it. I'd love it. Yeah. Like Kevin Keegan, love it.
I'd love it. I think that with Trossard, you get someone that is penetrative, that is dynamic, that's really direct in their play, and they've got one thing on their mind, which is to either take a shot at goal or try and find that creative pass to find someone that's going to get them into goal. And if we've got the depth, if you can play, like we could have, if you wanted to start Trossard yesterday, why not start Nelson on the left and then Trossard in the left 8 instead of play Havertz up top? If you wanted to do that,
absolutely perfect. So you could actually see them on Sunday potentially.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe. I think that the game is very big for Nelson. Who knows? Maybe we'll see it. It depends on Saka. There's suggestions. Go on, Dan.
No, I'm sorry to talk over you. The only thing that he'd be worried about is that if you start Nelson on the far left and Trossard inside, he probably doesn't feel he's got anybody who can come off with an impact in that same area. That's his problem, I think, probably.
Yeah.
To replace it later on in the game.
Zaffa said, do you trust Trossard's defensive awareness to play that role? I think it's more about trusting those around him to do their job so that any shortcomings are covered, in some ways. Like, when you've got Rice and Gabriel and maybe Zinchenko, or if you want to go with Tomiyasu to give yourself a bit more defensive security, if you want to play Trossard there, I think that should be enough, but who knows? Advertus and Dan, thank you so much for being our final guest on the show. Really appreciate your time, guys. Really appreciate it. You've been fantastic.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Tom, last thing, first time seen you live in ages. Declan Rice is an absolute sensation. Love him. Love him. All right.
Advertus, thank you, mate. Really appreciate you jumping on for the first time.
Nice meeting you, man.
All right, then.
Cheers, Tom.
Cheers, Dan. Cheers, Advertus. Massive thanks to our two guests and to all of our guests that have been on this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to some of our fans and get their thoughts. We've had people from all around the world, and it shows you kind of how global this community is. I've got a pizza on the way, so I'm going to shoot and get that in. So I'm looking forward to that. It's been a long day. It's been a long 2 days. I'm hoping that I can share with you at one point the real story behind what happened to me yesterday. It was a stressful one. I've had food poisoning and stuff this week, and then it was kind of capped off by things that went down, but I need to get them sorted before I can talk about it. It's not even that exciting. It's just really unlucky. But I will talk about it once I've got stuff sorted out. But yeah, it's been a hell of a couple of days. I'm stressed. I'm now going to enjoy myself with a pizza, and I'm going to chill and watch some telly. And I hope that you can do that too. Hopefully we watch Man City's momentum faltered in the Champions League. It probably won't be, of course. But hopefully. But enjoy yourselves. Have a chill evening, rest of the day, wherever you happen to be in the world, or if you're based in Australia, like our good friend TJ, is a fantastic full rest of your day, and that you wake up ready for the day. Stay safe, stay well, drop a like on the video, all that lovely stuff. And of course, as always, up the Arsenal.